would have been Intramuros in the background. It would have been extra Moros would have been rebuilt. There would have been cable cars, things like that, sense of public space, and things like that, which is something we have to kind of get over. Let's see. I will say that though there is one silver lining. So I did talk about how sort of the whole Intramuros kind of walled everyone off. What was interesting there was that we kind of, in a way, we kind of developed a globalized elite because a lot of these rich Filipinos would go abroad on steamship or whatever and come back and bring things to the country. And then you kind of, because I think, and this, I'm just positing here and theorizing, I think because of what that much, air travel wasn't available back then, like, they still had to spend a lot of their time within the country. So it became our national culture, at least a culture that's been propagated by our nationalists historically, like Jose Rizal and Mabini and such. It's a mix of different things. We're not, and we should embrace that. We're this beautiful mix of different cultures that kind of ended up in Manila. So you have obviously our base kind of Austronesian culture, but then you have the Spanish influence, the Chinese influence. So that's that's sort of a silver lining. So sort of, in a way that there was a globalized educated class before globalization, there's sort of, our culture was already globalized. So that's something that I want to run with because that's what makes us interesting. I mean, think about it this way. Last year, two of the biggest international music scenes that even made big dents in the US weren't American. One of them was Despacito, right, the song, right, which is Hispanic. The other one is a Korean boy band called BTS, it's Asian. We're Hispanic and Asian. We should take advantage of that, We're a unique mix of things. So that's where I want to start with. So in terms of creating a national identity, we have to acknowledge that we're a mix of different things, and we should celebrate that. Okay. This is all. I'm sorry, it's got a bit heavy. But I want to kind of bring it back to what First World Manila is about. The real problem I want to solve is, here's the thing. I talked about how kings and emperors kind of forced people to, they kind of created identity through art and culture, but also through force. Obviously, to do something like that today, you need like a benevolent dictator, right? Which, obviously it's very risky. and I don't think any of us want a dictator, or at least a lot of us. So the key problem, I think, for the Philippines is how to create a stronger sense of who we are so that we can go above and beyond our own self-interests or our own family self-interests, using culture and art as delivered by media without using force. I think that's the big problem, or the problem that I want to help solve, and I think we can all help solve. Okay. Luckily, we have a few things going for us. Things still function in this country. There's definitely, things are going relatively well right now. The economy is doing well, middle class. I think what's one important thing that I think it tends to get underappreciated is that our military is relatively neutral. There's a really good book about it. If you guys have time to read it, it's called Closer Than Brothers. It's about how under the Americans, they developed the PMA, the Philippine Military Academy, and they made it was modeled after West Point, but it was a poor man's institution. It wasn't, West Point in the US is where a lot of upper middle class Americans go to serve in the military, but the PMA is generally for poor people. And one reason apparently why the Americans and Manuel Quezon did this was that they didn't want to arm the political dynasties and the families here. So thankfully, our military is relatively neutral. They didn't fire on the people in EDSA in '86, for example, right? There's still a strong element that wants civilian rule here. So I think it's one of our good things. I would say a lot of people are patriots. There's also a considerable amount of educated Filipinos, not just within the Philippines, but also our diaspora, people who make it abroad in the US, Canada, the Middle East, etc. So we can take advantage of that and spread the word through social media. That's the last thing too, is that we exist in a world that's where I feel like boundaries are increasingly coming down in a lot of ways, at least in terms of the spread of information, whether it's true or false, whether that's good or bad. But I think that it's easy to get your message out now. This is something that I would like to get out for people. So I know this is I know it's kind of a big task, but thankfully too, because of modern technology, I do have data, so I do know people do care about these things. It's something that most people don't really talk about, right? About like, rebuilding old Manila, this kind of stuff. But thanks to analytics, I see the Facebook clicks, and I've seen things that really work with people and people get emotional about. Yeah. So, what does that have to do with First World Manila? As I mentioned before, First World Manila is a brand. What do brands do? Okay, yes, it is a business that does make money, but brands can also do more than that. Brand is something that's also beyond business. Brands can also inspire people. Here are two famous examples. You have Nike and Apple. These are two famous brands. You really get people. They engage with people emotionally. They're very good at that. I mean, you have to be very good to sell overpriced shoes and computers to get people engaged emotionally. But yeah, so having a brand is important. What is a brand? A brand is it's really expressing about, it's selling a story that people have to like, have to consume in our economy. So what I want to do with First World Manila is present a brand that presents a vision through art and culture, delivered by media, whether it's traditional or digital, because that's the easiest right now on social media, and show people like, here's our history, here's who we are, here's what needs to be done to get from here to here, right? Here's what the experts are talking about. Here's the debates that are happening, right? What are the long-term problems we have to do, or long-term solutions we have to take that will outlast whatever administration, whether it's infrastructure or industrial policy or diversification of the economy. Like, these are things I want to make interesting to people. So, yeah. Over the long, the idea is, I know this is very kind of airy-fairy, but it is a long-term struggle, not struggle, it's a long-term challenge to change people's minds. But I think now with social media, you can spread your message around. People will share, will follow. And then what I'd like to do is also get people to lead by example. So it shouldn't be just talking, but really thinking about what can I do to contribute. So I actually have some videos coming up in a few weeks from my own webpage about how people are trying to do things in places like in Cavite, where they're trying to put up an organic farm, or things where they have a textile industry that we don't even know about because we're here in Manila and the logistics are so bad we don't even hear about these things. So yeah, and hopefully, and what I like over the long term, even though this is a private sector endeavor, I'd like to influence people who work in the public sector, who work in the government bureaucracy, the people who work past all the administrations, and say, man, what can we do to make sure that things get done so that we can meaningfully alleviate poverty in this country, instead of being stuck in a situation where it's one step forward and one step back, or being stuck in the middle income trap. So again, I know it's in vogue right now to be an entrepreneur, right? Kind of think different. I know this guy on the left made it very cool to do that, but I don't see why we can't do that on a national level. Like, have a sort of startup mentality or reformist mentality on a national level, because yeah, he thought different, but so did he. I mean, both Renaissance men. Be different. So that concludes my talk. Am I under 30 minutes?
There was already a cycle.
Oh, so did you record the last part? Yeah, okay, good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to introduce you to my brand. Please come in October 13, where I have the formal art exhibit launch for my brand. First World Manila, also known as Maunlad na Maynila, or Manila, Ciudad del Primer Mundo. Thank you so much. Mga ginang Ginoo, ladies and gentlemen. Señores y caballeros. Muchas gracias.
Awesome. All right, cool. So you have some examples there of why this country is how it is. It's not just corruption and whatnot. There are concrete examples of why the present is repeating the past and things like that. So we all have brands here. Like everyone here has a brand, and kind of this information can be proliferated. You know what I mean? Because we are the main topic of that, building a sense of nationhood. That's really one way to get out of a lot of these situations for everyone. And I have two of my other artists here in the audience, Daniel French-Wallen and Michael Declarin. Daniel has a show on Saturday, if you guys want to come. But Michael, we were in Alabama like about 5 years ago, having some drinks, and was pretty hungover at that point. And we were talking about, can't remember what, but we were talking about the situation in the country. And Michael's from Tarlac, and he teaches children in Tarlac and in the Mountain Province. Through art, he does murals of the national heroes there and whatnot for the kids all around the towns. And I remember I was complaining about things. I'm like, this, like effing country, blah 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 blah. Whatever, I forgot what I was saying. But he basically said something to me which really changed my whole outlook on everything. And that was essentially that it's not about equality. It's not about equality. It's about unity. And that really profoundly changed my outlook on what's possible and everything. And I think that Ramon really hit the nail on the head, because there's only so much that you can't. We all know the situation here. It's not going to change, okay? But with the power of each individual, especially with our personal brands and with the interconnectivity that we know that we have, and knowing who we are and where we've come from, it's possible to build that sense and get that sense out there. So congratulations, because it was really this is the truth. So
Can I just add one more thing? I forgot to add this in the presentation, but one reason why I call it an aspirational advocacy is because this movement, I want to start from the top down. So starting with the rich, changing their attitudes in their minds, and then moving to the upper middle class, moving to the middle class, eventually influencing the people who work for government. So because it is a brand, it's still subject to sort of the laws of branding and marketing, which is that you have a target demographic. You can't be everything to everyone, and sell to your demographic the things that you know. So it's something I want to sell, starting with obviously the educated people here, and obviously foreigners who care. So it's not something I'm really making. Dealing with people who are sort of educated, who are well off, is one thing. I think dealing with the massa is another, and it's not the route I can really go. So this is something where, again, it's a brand, and it's engaging people from a certain economic and socioeconomic strata. So thinking about what they can do to really change things here, get them interested in finding ways to do things, because that's actually what happened in Japan too. By the way, I mentioned Japan briefly, but Japan industrialized they literally went from samurais and shoguns to warships and cars and everything in one generation, and they ended up beating Russia in a naval battle in one generation, and it's because of people from the top who changed things. So it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but I think it has to be people from the top who has to go and start changing things and changing their minds and attitudes.
I want to add one more thing as well. So I've witnessed this directly. I've witnessed this with the middle class. I've witnessed this with the elite, and I've witnessed this with the poor. The energy of the personal branding, the energy of talking about how you feel about things, or also putting forward positive imagery, which you know, which you have, and examples of that, does change the possibilities that are possible. That you might think it's completely impossible that will be clear in the next 10 years, but with enough social influence, and not bashing, but positive imagery certain things like that, it increases the possibility exponentially. So, yeah, I just want to say, and here's one more point.
Thanks. Just adding to that, you're right about people's attitudes, because I talked about institutions, right? Like the government bureaucracy, whatever department you want. But institutions, at the end, they are made up of people. People run institutions, they're not machines. So when you engage with people, you have to engage with them emotionally. You say, wow, I was part of this, or I did this, or we did this, You have to engage with people like that. And I think it's just missing right now is kind of the lines of communication have to be more open within different sectors of society for something like this to really change. So yeah, and I do, and again, going back to the branding thing, people do care about status. Just in general, people care about status. And it doesn't necessarily mean like money or whatever. Although that's one big example, but it's also about being recognized. So people want to be recognized. If you can learn how to recognize people who are doing good things, that's sort of a step in the right direction. And then providing a vision. Okay, here's a step into like a nice refurbished old Manila. Like someone opened up the roads here. Good job. Someone fixed the water system. Good job. Someone made a highway that instead of going to the casinos goes to Intramuros. Great job.
Exactly, and there are examples in society. We have the co-chairperson of the MMDA, Julian Abriha. We have so many people. We have people in the British Council who do the Pasig River Arc projects. There are so many good examples. Jeremy Lyons, right, from the National Museum. We have so many good examples of educated people who are really pushing things forward, and you just don't hear about it. And it's my pleasure to work with Ramon because I believe that he is one of our next examples of that in this country. And I salute you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. If there are any questions or anything like that, we'd like to take them. We've summed it up now. All right.
No one? Don't be shy. I guess I was pretty good.
Sorry, I was late.
Yeah.
This question might have been covered by your presentation.
Yeah.
But when you make your art, which is basically, it helps people aspire to a vision that's clear for everyone to see and appreciate. Do you work with city planners, economists, politicians to kind of shape the vision and see if this could actually be real?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a great question. I haven't yet. I'd like to. So if you know anyone, let me know. I'd always love to collaborate. By the way, I have a website. I'll write it down later, and then a Facebook page where I actually show all this stuff comes out. And the Facebook page is my YouTube channel. They come up with videos where I show the art and there's a story behind it. Like I went to Indan again to use another example, and I actually show what's going on, and then I kind of painted the first world version of Indan. The painting of which you will see in the exhibit on October 13. But so far, I haven't worked in any city plan or whatever. But
Show them to local governments just to inspire them that this is something you should be going.
I'd love to. It's a great idea. Definitely the next step I want to do. Yeah, I'd like to, because there's so much heritage that we have, and it's kind of covered under poverty. But yeah, that's a great question.
Because it feels like the first step of branding is a vision. Right?
Yeah.
It never feels like the government has any vision.
Yeah.
It's just reacting to something.
Yeah.
They're running based on platitudes.
Yes.
But there isn't any real strategy to shape a brand.
Yeah, it's not like this, right?
Yeah.
It's not like this.
Yeah, I've thought about that as well, and I'll be trying to show it to some people as well.
And it seems to me like there are obvious examples even now. Like we're a top producer of nickel, which long term is going to be the most important element in electric cars and solar energy. We're the top supplier of Tesla, but we don't.
I didn't even know that.
but we're just shipping out to Tesla as a commodity. Instead of that, why don't we just say, hey, if you want to be nickel, you have to produce some of your work here, spread some R&D here.
Yeah.
Do what China is doing. You have to share your knowledge and not just use our commodities and then run off and then sell us back a more expensive product.
Yeah, so that's tying into, I don't think you're going to talk about this earlier, but that's tying into a long-term planning industrial policy, which is hard to do because you're going to have to, because people have to make sacrifices to do that. Right? I mean, why if you own land here, why not just get the commodities and ship it out? Why do I need to build a factory? Why do I need to invest in R&D? why do I need to go to school and study, STEM, right?
No, not even, just require
Yeah.
Tesla to have a factory here.
Yeah,
Rather than
It's a good question.
ship the nickel or not.
that's a good question. Sorry? Huh? Sorry?
I'm gonna hold them hostage to raw material content.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So that's a good point. Like, and that's why I mean, like,
To some extent, we're doing that to coconuts. We don't ship the
We ship
raw
that
coconut.
stranded.
We ship the value-added virgin coconut oil or something.
right.
But we could even there could go one step further. Body Armor is the fastest growing sports drink, and that's mainly coconut water with some flavor.
Thank you for being here,
Body
Jason.
water. I don't understand why we're not leveraging our assets and just shipping them off as commodities and buying them more expensive.
Yeah, but the fact that you're telling us this and like it's all news to most of us, it's already a problem. We don't even know this.
Yeah, because there's no national strategy.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, someone in government should know everything.
Yeah, but again, sometimes you can't rely on government, which is why I'd like to. This is why we don't always need government to do this. Because the problem is that like, who's the government working for? It's supposedly working for the people. Is it? I don't know. But luckily, we have social media and people who are informed. Like you can just literally just post a video on Facebook, boost it. I mean, Facebook makes some money from that, but like people will see it, right?
Look, there's no policy. We're just, it's intellectual masturbation.
Yeah. But
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
But you see what I'm getting at, right? It's easier for people to know now because things spread so easily on social media, for better or for worse. But I'd like to steer towards the better part of
I
the.
comment that.
It's not necessarily intellectual masturbation. I just want to respond to that. It's not necessarily intellectual masturbation because we don't see many positive reinforcements towards things in the society. So it's very hard to measure the exact impact of those things. It might seem very futile, but it's not. Personally, the art world has changed a lot of things. You know what I mean? And internally, it's a very complex landscape. But you can see how one thing has a knock-on effect. So I would say it's hard to say that. It's also hard to say when people get inspired. We have to have a mining accident or like a mountain collapse to have an injunction on mining for 15 days. But
It's a reaction.
it's a reaction. So I don't think that we don't really see many policies which are popularly asked. I mean, they're asked for, but it's always like Jesus, Jesus Christ, give me, I need to get home in an hour, not 4. It's like that. So it's different when you have certain projects which publicly are supported, I think.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right that like these things should be. What you're saying is absolutely right. Like I mean, what you're saying is news to me, which is news to a lot of people, and that has to be solved because like. Not everyone can. Not everyone's able to like read the news all the time. People are busy, so it has to be something. If you, my idea is to package it and make it entertaining, and people want to learn more.
That was fair nickel, that mountain, isn't it? No, in Baguio that was fair nickel. Yeah.
Yeah, but and also like going back to like the arts and
The other
culture.
thing, if you had these multinational companies come here, you can impose higher standards and they can actually teach us
Yeah,
how to do higher standards, the way Nike did it with China.
yeah,
Now the working conditions of Nike
Absolutely,
is
absolutely.
a model for working conditions there.
yeah. So you weren't there when I did this whole thing where like the Philippines is like one step forward, one step backwards, and like Japan's over there and Singapore's being there, and like China's like way ahead,
I
right?
think we're just stepping all over the place.
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah.
That we know.
Kind of like this, yeah. You're right. Because here's the thing, like China, talking about like the granddaddy of like national culture and like sense of identity, like literally at this point with China, one man says something and it gets done. Like Beijing is clean now because they decided we don't want to pollute Beijing anymore, right? We're not China, like. Whatever you can think about that, right? We don't have hundreds and centuries of history behind us with a consolidated state run by an emperor, right? Which I don't know if you're there for that, but I was saying like, yeah. So like,
Even not to go that far. Like Vietnam just required, okay, we're just going to have elementary school people
Yeah.
require them to study computer science.
right,
And Vietnam's going to grow up to be like one
Yeah.
of the most highly advanced technology countries in Asia.
yeah. So when I was doing this whole thing, like I was actually running like Vietnam's like running past us, right? Yeah, the same thing. But again, Vietnam is they're descended from a kingdom also, right, or a state, right?
That doesn't require a lot of money. It's just the will and strategy.
It is, but to sell to people. So and we weren't there when I was talking about, but like, unfortunately, the sad truth is there's a gulf between like idea and execution and theory and practice.
And that's why the concept of attitude in nation building can become so integral to the process. And the fact that institutions are built up, they're not like it's not homogenous.
It's people-based, right? So the hope is that in these advocacies that you are reaching them, the people who are, you know what I mean? Like, because one of the points which I really liked was we are only a nation on paper. A lot of these laws are already passed, right? But it's like the implementation. So how do you kickstart like the machine to like, you know, and that it's like, yeah, there's obviously two ways. You know, like, there's a few ways. Like, I mean, you know, like get it done, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
It inspires.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying, and like the hard numbers in the policy have to be there, but because we're not taught this in our education system, and this is a global problem, not just a local one, right? Like you have to, you're kind of going the consumer route and packaging it nice and telling a story and making a brand out of it, you know? Because, which is, again, historically it's been done by kings and emperors, but now it's being done by private companies at some point, at some level. But yeah, it has, you have to, because my experience, so I've been at this for a couple of years already, and it's hard. I think there are people who are, okay, I get it, let's do this, right? But when you start reaching the margins, people, I literally went to like, for example, I'll give you an example. I interviewed some people in the US a few years ago, like, do you like my art? It's like, oh, I love your art, right? Like, what do you think about finance, economics, and global economy and your economy? Like, oh, I don't like it, you know, it's too hard, I don't want to think about it, right? I told someone that this story, and this person said, oh, so you interviewed like rural Trump supporters. Like, no, I interviewed educated New York liberals, you know? Like, it's very, between people like you and me and Julian, it's surprisingly not an easy sell for this kind of stuff. Or like, it bores people. That's the sad part.
Not that surprising.
Huh? You're not that surprising. Not surprising. Like, if I had my way with this entire world, like, these kinds of things should be required in every school in the world. Not just the Philippines, but the US, even developed countries, right? Because even a lot of the problems right now, in my view, are also from this problem. So like, people aren't educated, even educated people aren't educated to like think about like, you know, like industrial policy, world trade, you know, multilateral versus bilateral trade agreements, things like that. Like if you go to the street and tell that to like an educated person, even most of it, like what the hell are you talking about? Like, you know.
Like, it's
just on that, that's why it's also very important to have the imagery behind it, to have a symbolism and visual, like iconography behind an idea. Because even if it's not taught, I mean, like as you said, like it would be normal that it's not the most enthralling thing, especially because we live in the Philippines, like we live in Manila, so it's not like we're walking out and it's so inspiring. But the fact is, we know what the problem looks like, but you don't necessarily know what the solution looks like, and that's why, like his artwork for me is inspiring, because it gives you a visual identification of what it could be, which you don't see anywhere. So
yeah, you have to sell a vision for most people. That's what I've learned. That's what brands are good at. Like I don't know if you're there, but like these guys are so good. Like they'll get millions of people to like buy an overpriced shoe or an overpriced like phone. You know, that's like when you can sell a commodity for like a huge margin, you're a good marketer. You're a good salesman, right? So I am, and this is coming. Even though this is a public sector thing, I'm coming from a private sector standpoint. I'm using the tactics from private sector to like sell to people. But yeah, just kind of know this. It's a sad truth, unfortunately. By the way, Jason, you weren't here at the beginning. Like, this is being recorded. I'm going to put it on Facebook and YouTube. You're not, you know, if you don't mind, like your questions are probably there.
Oh, my face.
Yeah, it's also even in podcast format. So, and I do have a considerable following with a high engagement rate. So, but yeah, so that's the thing. Like, because at this point we can't rely on the government, it's actually up to the private sector to reform the government so that the government can do all the things it has to do to make sure that we can raise our standard of living, right? And it's not just here, by the way. It's also around the world, whether you're a rich or poor country. Because right now everyone is, you know, I mean, I don't want to went into politics too much here, but like all this arguing, fighting about trade and, you know, bringing jobs back, it's not productive talk, you know.